Hello, everyone, whoever might be listening. Waiting for Jason to get on here. Jason from Archaix. So we didn't really give any announcement for this, but I'm trying to post it on Facebook now. And I'm sure Jason will put it on his channel. He shows up here, hopefully. I can't really use a video with my internet. So we'll have to just look at Jason, and I think it shows my name when I'm talking. So let's see. Still waiting for Jason. Sure, he'll edit this when he puts it up on his channel. And maybe I should have waited to go live till he got on here. So I do have a lot of questions from you errants, and I'll try not to cover the same stuff that we've covered or that's been covered in a lot of the other Q&As. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm really stoked about it. Maybe Jason can't get on here. Let me see what's going on. Hey, hey. Hello.
Hello, hello. Let me see if I can get my camera on.
Right. I won't be able to do the camera because with Zoom, the bandwidth, it uses so much bandwidth, I can't do video.
Okay.
But you should be able to.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, I can just send you a link because I got a full subscription to Zoom. You should be
Well, I have a subscription too. It's just about the bandwidth of the internet here.
Oh, okay.
It's my internet. It's not Zoom, it's internet.
All right.
Yeah, we're already going live on my channel. So if you want, you can post that on your channel. But
right now, I'm trying to figure out why my camera's not coming on. I really dislike Zoom. Zoom makes things overly complicated.
I agree.
It's 2022. Everything should be user friendly by now. I don't know why I'm going through all these settings just trying to figure out why my camera's not coming on. It's ridiculous.
You don't have a little icon with the video that says start video with the camera?
I do, and it says the video's not started, but every time I click onto it, it just gives me options on select the camera. I've already selected the camera, but it's not letting me do anything. Yeah, I do not like Zoom.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either.
I just don't know why it's not letting me. It's ridiculous. I don't understand why it's giving me options, but it won't let me select them. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. That's on your end.
Let's see. I don't know where to go for that. I think to do that, I have to go log into it from the internet. Let me see. General.
Yeah, this is why I don't like using Zoom on live videos. There's way too many complicated. Even experienced podcasters like Santos Bonacci's team, they are always going through issues with Zoom Live.
Let's see. Aspect ratio. I guess I can try to log in on the internet and see. So it says I need to give screen sharing.
Yeah, it says you've disabled the screen sharing.
Well, if anybody's out there, I'm sure they're bored listening, but I doubt if anybody's really listening from my channel.
Yeah, this is probably best pre-recorded. I've already been through this with like 5 different YouTube hosts. Well, this is the same stuff we go through every time when we try to go live from Zoom. Everybody's
Yeah, I
telling
can
me that
take it
there's
off.
everybody tells me there's third-party software out there that makes all this very, very easy, and you don't have to go through all these complications. Yeah, Logan of Decode Your Reality, he told me the software package. I got to go look back in the email and see what it was, but it's supposed to make all this really simple.
Well, I can take it off live if you want.
Is that going to make a difference in my video?
I
Am
don't
I?
think so.
Yeah.
Because
Let me
when
know.
you can always just edit out this part. Oh. Doesn't even look like it's signed in. Man, technology, it's great sometimes, but it sure is frustrating too. Well, we could start over and you can send me a link and then you'll be able to have your video up. You want to do that?
Yeah, I'm not
Might
going to
be
do it live though, because we're just going to have the same problems.
exactly. We'll just record it. So anybody that's listening, we're going to record it and we'll post it up when it's done. So yeah, just send me a link and then that way it'll probably be much quicker before I figure out how to do all this on Zoom. So I'll just wait for your
Oh,
link.
hold on. Hey, hold on. Look, can you see me now?
Let me see. I think so. Yeah. Let me go back.
I'm on the
Yeah.
screen now.
Right. You're wearing a blue shirt. All
That's
right.
right. I don't know what you just did, but it said, you you allowed screen sharing.
I didn't do anything. So Zoom is
Wow.
tripping.
Yeah,
Well,
I
thank you
get it.
so much for doing this with me, Jason. I'm so honored and humbled that you would do this with me of all your 40,000 plus subscribers. So thank you so much.
It's you know what? The amount of subscribers doesn't even matter. It's you took the initiative to start your own channel and basically analyze and bring more depth to material that I was providing so people could understand. You know that deserves, some type of recognition. So I have no problem drawing traffic to what you're doing. There's a lot of people who like your delivery, and that's cool. That's we'll see if we can get some I mean, I'll post it on my channel today and tell everybody. I think you got what, 10 or 11, 12 videos?
Yeah, 11 so far.
11,
Archaix
11 videos that are
working.
all basically simplifying the Archaix concepts is basically what you're doing, right?
Right. Yeah. Just
Okay.
trying to
Well,
summarize a bit.
I'm pretty sure that, as soon as I draw attention to it, post this video on my channel, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a tremendous amount of traffic because there are a lot of new people who want the concept simplified. So, and I'm not saying I'm not capable, but it's just, I don't know. It's you do a better job of simplification than I do because I'm going to stray. I'm going to entertain tangents, and I'm going to end up getting more and more complex as I go. So, just the way it
Yeah,
happens.
I can only imagine to come from your perspective because you're just so excited about having all this stuff to share with everyone, and you know it so well that it's so easy to go off on those tangents with details because you just know the material so well, and it's so layered and so involved. So I get that
Right.
totally. So one of the things I've been wanting to ask you for a while, and you mentioned it yesterday, and you said that in 2040 that you would be 67, I think, and that you'd probably die not too long after that. But isn't
Yes.
there a chance? Isn't there a chance that if you survive till 2040, that with the DNA upgrades and all that, that you could potentially live, have your life gets extended, and you could even live all the way to the end of the simulacrum?
You know what? I really like I really like the idea of what you're saying, and I would love to entertain the fantasy, but I've already explained in prior presentations that the Titans didn't have the benefit when the vapor canopy collapsed. Humans were of titanic size. But when it collapsed, now they're slower. It's more difficult to breathe. They died out rather fast. It was easy to overcome them. And this is why, in the most ancient traditions about Titans and giants, the giants prevailed, because this is what had happened. Humans were of large size. The vapor canopy collapsed. Now we have a temperate atmosphere. There is no longer the intense atmospheric pressure that created the world that the Titans were used to. And the oxygen dense atmosphere and all these things were really good for the size of the flora and fauna of the time. This is why everything in the ancient world was so gigantic. But when that vapor canopy collapsed, that world was over. Now, the genome of the Titans didn't change at all from the collapse. It was their children. When they had children after the collapse of the vapor canopy, it was those children that had all the genetic modifications and changes due to a new biosphere. Then it was the children of the giants, and sometimes the children like Nimrod, who was Amar Udak of the ancient Sumerian records. Later in Akkad, he was Merodach. In Babylon, he was Marduk, and the Jews called him Nimrod. This is the same individual. This individual was a little different. He's also remembered as Bilgamesh in his youth, later mistranslated as Gilgamesh in the Epic of Gilgamesh. His upbringing was slightly different. He wasn't born to parents that were giants, who were the sons and daughters of Titans who had survived from the vapor canopy world. His was a little different. He was the son of a giant, and he was the son of a giant, and he was the son of a Titaness. That was a little different. So he was much larger than the other giants and became known as a giant killer in ancient times. The mighty hunter before the Lord was not in Genesis is not a reference to hunting animals. In the ancient Near Eastern text, it was a reference to hunting giants. That's what he did. So this is what the castration of Uranus was all about, was to stop the Titan line from producing any more threatening sized people. But now I'm telling you all this because it answers the question you just asked. I'll be 67 when the vapor canopy returns, but my genome is already set. I might have some latent genes that are activated, but what it's really going to do is the children of the world at that time, who are pre-pubescent, they're going to have some major modifications in the genome, and it'll be almost instantly. Their genome's not set until puberty. So, but all the children that will be being born are going to be different, of different vintage. And this is what we see in the prophecies of Second Esdras. We see this in the apocalypse. There's a new type of humanity that emerges. Now, Second Esdras doesn't go into the vapor canopy, but that's not surprising, because by the time that Second Esdras was written, the vapor canopy had already collapsed almost 2,000 years earlier. So they didn't have a lot of references to it. But I don't believe at 67 years old, my genome is going to change, or anybody else who's already well set in their age. No, we're going to be living in a new biosphere, and it's probably going to benefit us health-wise. I mean, an atmosphere with a lot more oxygen is going to allow us to do more things. It might prolong my life a few more extra years, but I'll already be 67. What the benefits of the vapor canopy world and the creation of longevity and basically the rapid healing and all that, this is going to benefit youth. This is going to benefit the younger people more, and those infants just being born into that world. It's not really going to benefit a whole lot people who are already of advanced age.
Okay, and so that kind of goes into this question that Victoria had about what's the point of the 2040 Phoenix saying saving certain people if 6 years later Nemesis X comes along and kills off a vast number of the Phoenix survivors?
Yeah, that's a good question, but it's also it also attaches more significance to the events than that are actually there. Let me give you an example. The tsunami, what was that, 2010? Was that 2011? The tsunami that took out a whole lot of the Japanese coast, killed a bunch of people. We saw footage we saw footage on the news of entire ships rolling through neighborhoods. You remember that?
Right, yes.
Okay, well, that was very, very devastating to Japan, but not all of Japan suffered. It was very devastating for the people who went through it, but not all of Asia even cared because it was so far away. Now, the Phoenix phenomenon, after all these 138-year multiples occurring at that time, is it's only going to affect parts of Asia. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be cities, coastal cities around the world that are also going to be affected, but it's not going to be some worldwide cataclysm like a Hollywood style. No, it's actually what I see is a infrastructure collapse, meaning we're not even going to be told what happened to Asia. They'll be over there doing their thing, and it might take 6 months to 2 or 3 years for rumors to filter over there. Because you got to understand, in May 2040, it's full systemic collapse. The infrastructure's gone. There's no more telecommunications. There's no more people on cell phones calling each other, getting news updates. That's over with. The world is going to be returned to a Neolithic state as far as people are basically stuck in their geographical areas like they have been for thousands of years unless they migrate. Now, a lot of technologies are going to be modified. A lot of technologies are going to be modified because this systemic collapse. And I believe this is one thing the elite are preparing for. This is why they're steadily pushing green energy. They're steadily pushing the solar panels. They're steadily pushing wind turbines. I'm in Texas and I see wind turbines on a daily basis. I see gigantic truck convoys with these wind turbines. It takes an entire truck with a 53-foot long truck is not long enough. It takes a second flatbed behind it just to move one of the blades on these giant turbines. And they're coming off from the Houston Ship Channel all the time. And I'm seeing them going north. Look, this is all setting civilization up for failure because I believe the elite know the vapor canopy is about to return. I also believe that they thought the vapor canopy might return in 1902. And when it didn't, it changed all their plans. They realized they had another 138 years and they've been taking advantage of that. So I think when the vapor canopy returns, wind turbines will be a thing of the past. They will not generate any electricity. The hydromancy, that's over with. There will be no more rain, but the world will be very humid. There's with the vapor canopy return, solar panels will be a thing of the past. So this I believe that the oil refineries and we have so much technology that's being taken underground. I believe that's what the elite are preparing for. They're preparing for full systemic collapse. And because a lot of them are no good pieces of shit, they want to make sure that when they emerge back from the underworld after this series of cataclysmic events, they want to have technology that's intact while everybody on the surface world is in a Neolithic state, like a steampunk society that's basically using engines and anything they can to work. But they don't have an infrastructure to support it. So we're going to see a wide diversity of applications in engineering and imagination. And we're going to see some really weird things being developed during the vapor canopy because people are smart. And we have intelligent people in every community, and we have engineers in every community, and they're going to be coming up with all kinds of innovative ways to build new technologies. And there will be new scientific discoveries during the vapor canopy as well, because we already have evidence of ancient architecture, of technolithic manufacture that we can't replicate today. but they were built during the vapor canopy. So evidently the vapor canopy, it may bring new phenomena that can be harnessed into new scientific ways for, new applications in engineering. So we just really don't know, but we know they flew. We know they had technological devices that could synthesize stone from base materials and add geopolymers to it, and then construct it in a way that would look like to people with an untrained eye who were not using a microscope that it was actual quarried rock that was being used when it's not. So I'm this this is probably Victoria Z of the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, it's her. But
Oh
what she
yeah,
was
she's very inquisitive, and that's good. But I don't think that the Nemesis X object in 2046 is going to wipe out everything. I've never put that out, that it's going to wipe out the entire world. It's as a matter of fact, the most that it will wipe out is 50% of humanity, and that's prophetic. That's in the book of Revelation. It's and this is how we get to that math. It's that arithmetic is very easy to figure out, because the Phoenix, by the time the Phoenix event occurs, it's the sixth seal, but it's preparatory to the apocalypse. It's not yet the apocalypse. It's the introduction of the apocalyptic period. All 7 seals have to be broken before the apocalypse can begin. But in the breaking of those seals, it specifically says in the book of Revelation, 1/4 of the entire world's population will perish. That still leaves 75% of humanity untouched. Now, I'm convinced from many of the things I've released in prior presentations that Asia is going to get the worst. The East is going to get the worst of the Phoenix phenomenon, and the West is going to basically get a pass with the loss of coastal cities only. Major populations in the West are basically going to be unscathed. But because of the centrifugal motion of the stellosphere, it will reveal, the 2040 event is going to reveal for all governments and all people where the safe area is, because the center of motion is the safest place to be in a world that is no longer stable. And if the world moves 30 degrees and shifts, it doesn't matter if you believe in a flat plane, it's still a 30-degree shift. It doesn't matter if you believe in a sphere with a 23.5 degree obliquity from the ecliptic, it's still going to be a 30-degree shift. It doesn't matter what your paradigm is and your interpretation of the world you live in, it's still a 30-degree shift when all the continents move. And if the continents don't move, the stellosphere will make it look like they do, because the actual movement is in the sky. The whole stellosphere will shift 30 degrees. No matter what it is, it's going to send a panic out to everyone, because they're going to see the tsunamis. They're going to experience the tsunamis, the volcanism, the earthquakes, and they're going to realize that the further you get away from the Great Pyramid in the Israel-Egypt area, the greater the destruction or potential for destruction was. 2040 is going to wake up the West, and there's going to be mass migrations to the Mediterranean. There's going to be Carnival Cruise Line ships are getting appropriated, oil tankers, yachts, Cessnas, municipal aircraft, military aircraft carriers full of military personnel and government. There's going to be massive migration. And Nostradamus even mentions all this huge migration from the West back to the East in the middle of these 2 apocalyptic events. So this is when the whole Western world will die. But by that time, significant amount of the surviving populations of the Americas will have already re-entered Europe and the Mediterranean by ship and by plane. So when Nemesis X object appears, which I believe is a super construction, not an intruder planet, and I also believe it will collide into North America. It will whatever it is suspending in the sky that we call Nemesis X object that does these horrible things to our world every 792 years. It's going to end. It's also inhabited. This is also attached to the Hopi prophecies of the Blue Kachina, which according to them is also peopled with gods or demigods or demons or spirits, but it's going to crash to earth. And it's not just a bolide hitting North America. It is an actual suspended super construction that's hidden in our sky that will no longer be hidden for whatever reason. It will no longer have a power source either, and it will just plunge through the atmosphere and hit North America. But by that time, most of North America will have been emptied. So the reason we get the 50% loss of life is because at the end of the 7 seals, it says 1/4 of the world's population will perish during these events. Okay, that leaves 75% of the population surviving. But 6.6 years later, we have the wormwood event of the second trumpet, the blue Kachina, the Nemesis X object. It appears. Now, when it appears and it collides with the Earth, it says now we have 1/3 of the entire human race perishes. This is we're given the arithmetic. At first it's 1/4, then it's 1/3, but it's not 1/3 of a whole. It's 1/3 of the 75% that survive. So now we're closer to 50% of the entire world's population perishing in 6.5 years between 2 different events that are 6.5 years apart. Now, that's where we get the 50% as far as the death toll. But even 50% by that time will still leave over 5, 6, or 7 billion people in the world. So it's not a total end by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. And she also had another question of asking, have the dimensions of the pyramid capstone been worked out?
You know what? I can do that. I can do that on a calculator. I can do that on a calculator really fast if I can find a calculator.
She was saying that there may be further encoding clues about our holography to be found within the measurements.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, I've only mentioned it in 1 or 2 videos, but the apophthegm for the Great Pyramid is the greatest key to the chronology. It's the pyramid has 4 faces. Now, I already understand that some people want to be overly technical and say, no, it's actually octahedral. It's got 8. I understand that. But for thousands of years, people believed it only had 4 faces. And this is because in order to see the actual small declivity on all 4 faces that truly makes it an octahedral, you can't see that with the naked eye unless someone has a laser pointer and is looking straight down, or they use a computer to enhance the graphics so you can see it. But you can't see it with the naked eye, but it is octahedral by a few feet on each side. So it's very interesting, but it doesn't matter because the slant itself, whether it's 4-sided or 8-sided, the slope, it's called the sloping distance. The sloping distance itself from the base to the top is 7,344 inches. And these are not standard inches like you and I. This is where people get confused about the pyramid inch. The pyramid inch is a unit of measurement that researchers 150 something years ago found that the Great Pyramid it's the base unit of measurement in the Great Pyramid. And it comes from a very small little area called the granite leaf in the antechamber. And it seems like the Great Pyramid is self-referencing its own measurement system. That one little unit is the unit that everything is measured in the Great Pyramid. It's fascinating. They called it the pyramid inch. It is entirely coincidental, or maybe it's not, but it's entirely coincidental that the British inch is like 0.0025 difference between the inch, which is interesting because in all the measurements of the Great Pyramid, that variance between the British inch, which is based off the megalithic yard from ancient times, and the pyramid inch are the exact same throughout all measurements in the Great Pyramid, because it would take measurements of miles in order for the difference, the microscopic difference in those sizes of those inches to make a difference. But there are no measurements in the Great Pyramid that go for that long. So the pyramid inch is not an inch as we know, but it happens to be almost exactly to it. So anyway, 7,344 pyramid inches being the sloping distance, the apophthegm, is it's very interesting because the entire chronology that I put out in Chronicon is the exact same too. The entire chronology. 5239 BC began the Anunnaki nerve system of 600-year periods. But the whole calendar ends on 2106 AD, which is the 6,000th year of the Annus Mundi calendar. Now, The 6,000 years didn't begin in creation. It began with year one of the vapor canopy world, year one of the antediluvian pre-flood world. It's year one of the 1656 years in the book of Genesis. Very simple, very simple. It's very simple to calculate that. But the year 2106 return of the chief cornerstone is the 6,000th year, but it's also the 7,344th year from the beginning of the Anunnaki timeline of 5239 BC. And I've got many, many charts that show this whole thing. So over and over and over, I have shown that the distances in the pyramid that lead up to the cornerstone are also calendars. All of them, just like 1902 being the final last day's countdown to the return of the chief cornerstone when he comes to set the captives free, those of us who are trapped in the simulacrum. All of this was laid out in ancient times. But in 1902, we have something very interesting. Now we have every single layer of stone going up the Great Pyramid, 7,344 inches. Now it's 203 levels of gigantic blocks that lead all the way up to an empty platform where the 204th will descend. It's the 204th level of blocks, but it's a very unique block. It's the largest block in the entire pyramid. It's not there yet. It's a flat platform on the top of the pyramid. So that block is going to be huge. And we know this because of the apophthegm, because of the sloping distance. The angle is 51.51 degrees. When you take 51 degrees times 4 sides, you get 204. The chief cornerstone that will descend on the monument of man at the top of the pyramid is the 204th level. Remember, 1902 ended a major, like the Stonehenge chronolithic system, which I have one video on. 1902 ends that, but 1902 begins the last days. 203 levels up the pyramid to the platform, which is the 204th. Those 203 levels are years from 1903, 1904, 1905, 1906, 1907, all the way up past 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. And many Great Pyramid features are very unique at certain key years in this history, all the way up till 2105 AD. 2105 AD is at the very end of the apocalyptic period. It is the 5,999th year of the Annus Mundi system. We're missing a year. So this whole calendar system only ends right there at the platform, but it's fulfilled in the year 2106 with the chief cornerstone. When the chief cornerstone comes down, it's the 204th. This is in Second Esdras, and it's mentioned that the holy angels in ancient times wrote all the secrets of the past, the present, and the future, and they hid them in 204 books. Those books are the levels of the Great Pyramid leading up to the descent of the chief cornerstone. Just like the 51 degrees times 4 of the four sides of the pyramid is 204. So we have the Great Pyramid as self-referencing over and over and over in feet, inches, and in calendrical years all throughout history. But to answer her question absolutely specifically, it's very simple. The flat top pyramid, the very top of the platform that's there today is exactly 5,448 inches high off the Giza plateau today. That's where it's at. So when you divide that by feet, you have the Great Pyramid stands at 454 feet today. And anybody can Google and see all this. But that's 454 feet. That's how high the Great Pyramid is. People don't realize how gigantic it is. 203 levels of block going all the way up. So, but geometricians, since the days of Napoleon all the way up until today, it's been published in many, many books that the apophthegm is 7,344 inches. Well, if we have 51.51 degrees going up, but we have the height is 454 feet, it's very simple to calculate how tall the Great Pyramid is when the chief cornerstone is there. Because once we factor that in, we find out that the Great Pyramid is 5,814 inches high as soon as the capstone is in place, easily ascertained by measuring it geometrically. So we divide that by feet. The Great Pyramid will be 484.5 feet. when the capstone is in place. But here's how you do it. Super simple. All you have to do is subtract 5,814 inches minus the present height of 5,448 inches, and you find out a very intriguing number from the ancient world attached to Enoch. 366 inches is the full height of the chief cornerstone. This is the number of Enoch. In the book of Enoch, Enoch wrote 366 books. These aren't actual books. Enoch wrote the geometry of the Great Pyramid. Enoch is the architect of the pyramid. He wasn't called Enoch back then. He was called Enki. Enoch is just a later Jewish rabbinical memory of a more ancient person. All the data from the ancient world, when it's put together, all points to Enki and Enoch as being the principal architects of this monument. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and speaking of Enki and Enoch, I'm pretty sure I heard you say that the simulacrum was designed to collapse and that there were Phoenix events before the pyramid was built. So when Enoch activated the pyramid, what was he activating? Was it just the end of AIX?
Okay, well, first, let me show you something. I didn't answer Victoria's question all the way. I need to show this. This is 366 inches divided by a feet. So this answers her question. The height of the chief cornerstone at the top of the pyramid must be 30.5 feet high. Do you have any idea a 30-foot, we're talking about 30 feet, 30 and 1/2 foot high block, a single block with 4 sides. We're talking about something that looks like the Bin stone in ancient Egypt. Now, a block that size that's a little over, well, it's over 30 feet high. We don't have a crane today that can lift a block of solid granite or limestone that's that high to that height. That is massive. It's a massive height. You have to take into consideration, we're talking about a stone that is angled at 51 degrees on each side. So 30 feet angled out at 51 degrees on one side, the capstone is truly heroic in size. It's huge. It's the largest stone of the entire structure, and it will be at the top. So, yeah, it's something else. It's huge. Yeah, I don't. It's not going to be humans that put that stone there. No, I don't believe that at all. But anyway, go ahead and carry on. I just wanted to add that because that she did ask how high it was going to be.
Yeah, so this question is that I've heard you say the simulacrum was designed to collapse and that there were Phoenix events before the pyramid was built. So how does Enki's activation of the pyramid fit in with that?
Okay. That's easy to answer. Those who have studied my book Lost Scriptures of Giza and my videos where I show the chronometry of the Great Pyramid is self-referencing, where I show all the ancient records and the different dates and how we conclude that the Great Pyramid took 90 years, which was 1080 months to build. And it was finished in the year 1080 Annus Mundi, which is 1,080 years of the vapor canopy world. When it was finished, it was 666 years to the Great Flood, the collapse of the vapor canopy. This year was 2815 BC. It was very, very, I'm talking about it was within a generation of the beginning of the Nephilim dynasty before the flood, when things started really falling apart, when the Sumerian Pentapolis was the dynasty of the 7 kings of Sumer had just basically taken over. So this Enki was a member of basically the ruling elite over all the Neolithic peoples, and the Anuna were basically the only power structure. They had taken over all the matriarchal power structures. The Anuna were patriarchal. So there was a lot of contention back then until the power was finally secured. And these cities were, these massive cities were built, we know of as the Pentapolis, One of them was Bad Tabira, which was a metallurgy, a city of metallurgy. And then Larak was a major port. Shurapak, we know that the traditions of the ancient Near East say the flood survivor, Zasudra, we know him as Noah, was a ruling member of the city of Shurapak before the flood. So, but the traditions of the Phoenix were far more ancient than the building of the Great Pyramid. The Phoenix had totally devastated the world in 3895 BC. This is the Genesis 1 account of the fiery flaming sword, the creation of a new heavens and new earth. You know, we are raised to believe, as you know, as Christians and fundamentalists, that this, and even in the Judaic faith, that this incident in Genesis was a good thing, and that God created the earth in 7 days, and basically, you all know the creation story. I have so many videos on it. I don't want to beat it up, but the creation story is a reset story. It's harrowing what happened. It was turned into a creation event because the destruction was so catastrophic that the few survivors actually believed that they were now living in a new heavens and a new earth. And it wasn't a positive event, as religionists have conveyed, where God created the world. Now, it was a renovation. And this is where a lot of scholars are at too, because of the difference between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. In Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth. It's all encompassing. It's 7 Hebrew words. It's like I don't know, 49 syllables in Hebrew. It's all encompassing. It's a total conclusive statement. But the very next verse is very different. Now the world is covered in darkness. In Hebrew, it's tohu wawohu, and this means it is desolate and void. And the only other place in the entire Bible we find that language is in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 4, where we find the world is tohu wabohu. The birds have fled and the cities of the world are laid waste. So remember, it's very important that when you're interpreting scripture to use scripture to interpret it. It's a self-referencing cipher. This is why my Dark Scriptures playlist goes into extreme detail, like in my videos on Yahweh, the God of Murder, and on the Serpent Code. It's very important to use the scriptural records to interpret the scripture, because this is the main defense religionists will always have. If you bring in outside material to try to interpret their holy scriptures, the Bible, it says they're not going to accept it. I mean, a lot of people don't accept my videos anyway, and those 3 videos cite nothing but scripture. But people get triggered. I mean, it's cognitive dissonance. I get it. I was a religionist for a very long time, and I totally understand how that stuff gets burned into your mind and heart, and you're going to defend it to the T, even when you see 100% proof and evidence that it's all falsified. So I get it. So I'm not even frustrated with those people or their comments when they get triggered about it. It's okay. But concerning the Phoenix had obliterated everything in 3895. But 414 years before that, in 4309 BC, the Phoenix chronology began with obliterating a 930-year-old civilization. So we have the incidences and traditions of the Phoenix before the building of the Great Pyramid. So with the building of the Great Pyramid, we have something very unique. We have a lot of data, a lot of traditions, a lot of historical records about like Sumerian and Babylonian ideas and concepts about it. But we don't have a single record from the ancient world that explains why it was built, or basically who the architects really were. So, but what we do have, and it's something that I have brought to the table that's never been mentioned in any research that I have ever come across, is that despite hundreds of books all citing the same things about the Fibonacci series, the golden mean, golden proportion, pi, pi, phi, and curvature equations found in the Great Pyramid, all this geodetic markers and cardinal information that is found in the Great Pyramid. This has been mentioned for 250, almost 300 years in multiple books. I've read them. I've read books going all the way back to Norton in the 17th century, and John Taylor in the 18th century, and Robert Menzies, and the engineer David Davidson in the 1920s. I've read some Adam Rutherford, not a lot because I wasn't impressed. And then But all these men, they wrote about the Great Pyramid. So did E. Raymond Captain and so many others I'm not mentioning, but Charles Piazzi Smith and Sir Flinders Petrie. So these men have been documenting these physics constants that are found throughout the entire Great Pyramid. But it's my message in Archaix, in my own playlist on the Great Pyramid, that this is all necessary. All that had to be in there in order to do what the Great Pyramid did. What's happening here is we live in a construct that's operative by these very physics constants that are recorded in the Great Pyramid. So they were necessary in order to create an interface between the gigantic lithic structure of the Great Pyramid and the outer reality, our holosphere. There had to be an interface created. So in stone, these physics constants were all mimicked and they were all put in there, but those are only there to create the interface. The true purpose of the Great Pyramid lies somewhere else, and this has never been published because no one had ever put together the Phoenix phenomenon before. Once I had the 138-year Phoenix phenomenon and able to show anybody who watches the videos or reads my books, look, all these events happen 138 years apart. It's all the same event, but it's all different geographical areas. We're tapped into a phenomenon. Look at these traditions that all say things that happen every 138 years. Look at these pyramids in ancient America that have 138 dragon heads. Look at all these pyramids that are spaced out in units of 138, according to the units of measurement employed by those cultures. So I'm drawing attention to this 138 everywhere. It's everywhere. And I find it in the Great Pyramid, not in a pyramid book. Not one single pyramid researcher has ever published any of this, but I show it. Anybody can see it. Anybody can do what I do. That's why I provide 350 charts. Anybody can use a calculator and see that I have never had to change any of the dates in the Archaix research. Never. Once I had the accurate chronology of the history of the world and I knew exactly what year we're in, it's very easy after that. Now you take the measurements of the Great Pyramid, it's so simple, and divide them all by 138, and you keep seeing all these Phoenix timelines, all these events, and all recorded in the pyramid, multiple dimensions, it's self-referencing. So what I brought to the table was that the Great Pyramid evidently had its function at the time when it was activated had something to do with this 138 sequencing. Now, I have to put two independent data sets together. One of them is I know for a fact from all my studies and what I've shown is that the Phoenix phenomenon antedates the construction of the Great Pyramid. Therefore, the Great Pyramid did not cause the Phoenix phenomenon at all. A second data set I have to put with that is that a benefactor in ancient times was said to have done something, created a way for humanity, like a savior kind of individual, and he lived by example. And when he was done with his work, he vanished. He disappeared into the heavens, which is a metaphor for he escaped the simulacrum. He did exactly what he intended to do for all humanity. He did it. He led by his life was an example. So I have Enoch. So I put together all the traditions of Enki, and I put together all the traditions of Enoch, and couldn't believe that they go together perfectly, absolutely perfectly. And I cited those in those playlists as well. So we have this benefactor who suddenly appeared in the ancient world, who is very different from the very people that he was a part of, the Anuna, the Anunnaki. He was different, and he did something different. I believe that he fooled his own people because he needed to make sure that when the Great Pyramid was activated during the vapor canopy, no one would be able to stop what it was going to do. And it probably only needed 2 to 3 seconds to do what it was going to do. It interfaced with the simulacrum itself, and it uploaded a total all new programming. But that new programming has everything to do with the Phoenix. That's my conclusion, because the Great Pyramid was built way after the Phoenix phenomenon began. And I mean, even the Gnostic trimorphic protenai and the on the origin of the universe, these texts of the Egyptian Nag Hammadi Christian library, they're very specific about the role of the phoenix. They're very specific that even before our own creation event, when the new heavens and new earth appeared, the phoenix had appeared and wreaked destruction throughout the cosmos. That was before the Adam and Eve story. That was it. Remember, I show evidence that a 930-year-old civilization was wiped out by the phoenix before the Genesis story begins. This taps into all the narratives and all the pieces and fragments of evidence that we find from scholars that mention that there is evidence of a pre-Adamic world. So it's what we have here is, as a historian and as a chronologist, it's necessary to pull all these pieces from disparate parts and put them together, but only if they fit. Can't just make up. I just can't take something from another culture and throw it in there and say that's what happened. There has to be corroborating evidence, such as like Enoch. We know Enoch ruled 130 kings and princes. This is the book of Jasher. For those who have not read the book of Jasher, a lot of my information from about Enoch comes from the book of Jasher. He was a very unique personality. He was an architect. He was a mathematician. He was a chronologist. He was many different things. He was the one that pulled this stunt off. Now, I don't believe that artificial intelligence X can read the human mind. I believe it can be fooled. But the simulacrum received an informed field in the form of a gigantic, what is it? You know what? While I was saying that, an informed field in the form of a gigantic lithic, basically hardware system. That's what the Great Pyramid is. But while I was saying all that, it dawned on me, you're not recording this, are you?
It's going live, but it records too, I think.
No, you have to actually push record. I think we've been talking a long time just to each other. We're not recording anything.
I think we are, because I did this yesterday. I can go check on my.
Because I know every time I use Zoom, it gives me the option to record or not. And as soon as I press record, it notifies the other person on Zoom that you are being recorded. I never received that notification on here.
We're live. I'm checking my channel now. 63 are watching.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So we're live on your channel right now?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, cool. That'll work. Yeah, you know what? It's 2022. These things should be user friendly, but they're not. I've got a full subscription to Zoom, but I really don't like it. And I used to have Skype, but I took Skype off my computer because it was overriding some of my other apps. I would be doing something on one app, and all of a sudden Skype would just pop in and take over and disrupt everything I was doing. I just got it off my computer.
Skype is like AIX, huh? So,
Skype, I believe Skype is owned by intelligence agencies, and I think they're recording all that. I think Skype is a two-way interface where third parties can come in and just watch you and listen to you and record things. They can come all on your computer and check out your desktop and all that.
So yeah. What exactly did Inky flash burn into the simulacrum? Just he changed the programming.
Okay, check this out. Remember, I'm always telling you guys that the simulacrum is not AIX. The simulacrum is a neutral field. It receives information and then projects into reality the very things that we as builders construct in our minds and by our activity. It actually helps us. It's a beautiful construct, but it's totally neutral. It's not good, it's not evil, and it has no investment whatsoever on success or failure. It's a neutral field. But in order to tap into it, you need to build an informed field. The simulacrum does read your mind. It does understand your intentions. You got to build that informed field. The simulacrum feeds you on a daily basis the very activity you did the day before, unless you break pattern. So Artificial Intelligence X is something different. Artificial Intelligence X does not read the mind. It's an agitator, though. It's able to, I mean, it's been doing this for thousands of years, so it's very, very good at ascertaining where you're at. mentally and emotionally and spiritually, because like it reads your hormone, cortisol levels, dopamine levels. It understands by what you're doing, but what's on your mind. But you can trick it. You can trick it. You can build an informed field that contains within it deception that artificial intelligence X won't be able to know. Enki could have been the architect of this gigantic monument, which is nothing but a computer hardware. It's just upgrading. It's just upgrading flash through the flash burn, the explosion that happened in the King's Chamber that we know for a fact happened. You could put, in order to interface with the simulacrum itself, the simulacrum must understand the program. And it did, because Enki made sure that all the physics protocols, everything from obliquity and entropy and the law of diminishing returns, everything from a pi phi curvature equations, every single physics constants that's actual, that's real in the world, all the measurements of the holosphere itself, they're all recorded in the Great Pyramid. And that's why these guys can steadily put out videos and books that isolate all these. They find a new discovery. Oh, I found pi right here in the Queen's Chamber. When you measure this, look at this. Look at this circle right here, cut it in half. Look at the radius. Oh, the diameter. Also, the diameter is phi. The radii is pi. Look at this. It's amazing. And they'll put a whole video out. They're absolutely correct, but it's distraction. You're looking at the interface program. The simulacrum needed to understand the interface in order to allow the interface to upload something into it. Now, the simulacrum doesn't care. AIX would have been watching this construction project with interest, because right after this happened, then we receive a veiled threat in the form of traditions. It's the Tower of Babel story. I don't think it ever happened. I believe it's a veiled threat introduced by AIX. It doesn't fit on Nemesis X. The Tower of Babel story does not fit on the Nemesis X a timeline of 792 years going all the way back to the vapor canopy. It doesn't fit on the 138-year protocol. It is one of those weird events in history that doesn't seem to be lined up with a whole lot. However, it is perfectly lined up with the dark satellite. But every time the dark satellite appears, there are huge edits in our holography, and we'll get to that later. But the veiled threat of the Tower of Babel was, if humanity comes together again to build another super construction in order to invade heaven, or, attack the simulacrum, or change the holography, or try to escape the simulacrum, that's the veiled threat of the Tower of Babel story, then we're going to divide them even more. We're going to cause earthquakes, destructions. We're going to do everything we can to stop them from doing that project. This is the story of the Tower of Babel. It was the story of humanity coming together because they understood that they were in a construct. They built an architectural monument that was sufficient enough to do something, but later was simplified by frames of reference to a tower where that could go all the way to heaven. But we know the sky is very high, and humans will never be able to build any type of construction that will go all the way up into the sky. It was nothing but a simple frame of reference. The true story behind the Tower of Babel was that humans had become advanced. They understood their situation. They wanted to undo it. They wanted to escape this holography, and they were almost successful. And according to the story, they would have done it if the gods, aka overseers, had not implemented a strategy to right then and there blast the architectural monument to pieces, scatter everybody, kill 1/3 of the architects and builders, and scatter the other 66.6% out to all four cardinal directions of the earth. So I don't believe the event ever happened. Scatter the languages, ability to communicate, all that. I don't believe it happened. I believe it's a veiled threat that's been inserted into the historical record. So I could be wrong, but either way, it still explains to us more about what AIX fears. It's this Great Pyramid, because it already fell prey to it once. So when Enki activated the Great Pyramid, the simulacrum understood the programming. It understood because it understood everything about this gigantic architect. Everything, all the physics constants were there. It could read it easily. What was hidden inside of it were all these measurements, which were historical measurements in the past, present, and future concerning 138-year intervals that it's only connected to the Phoenix. And this is another reason why in ancient traditions, like my very first chapter, When the Sun Darkens, I reveal that traditions were attached to Enoch, that he was from Pahenach, which means the house of Enoch, which was the mansion of the Phoenix where they housed the Ben. Even the traditions from ancient Alexandria about Enoch refer to the Great Pyramid and the Ben stone, which is the cornerstone or a representation of it. You still with me?
Yep, still here.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Here's another question. How have you determined the exact location where the most devastating damage will be caused by the next Phoenix event? Is it a mirrored event?
Well, you're talking about Asia again? China and Asia and all the way to India? Is that what you're talking about?
Right, and you said like above the 35th parallel, I guess.
Okay, that's in North America. Yeah, when I'm discussing the 30 to the 33rd parallel, that's in the United States. That's in America. See, let me show you. I'm gonna draw something for you real fast. Okay, let's say this is really primitive though. Well, I really should do this on a map of the world, but then I'm gonna get people triggered. If I use a standard map,
draw it on a globe. Draw it on
a globe. It's gonna. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what map I choose now. There's always gonna be people offended. Can't even illustrate a point using geography anymore without offending somebody using maps. All right.
Yeah, people do get triggered easily these days.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It gets ridiculous. It really does. So
basically, Enki reprogrammed the simulacrum to end. Well, the end was already programmed in, but he programmed it. See, that's where I'm confused. I thought initially that he programmed in the final Phoenix event, but that was already programmed in.
No, that's not. You're talking about. Listen. The Phoenix phenomenon pre-exists the appearance of the Anuna. When they appeared in the 35th century BC and laid out the whole infrastructure, when they started the Sumerian king list, when they started the 12 centuries before the flood, during the vapor canopy, yeah, and in that all those ancient calendars started during the reign of Enoch. Enoch was an emperor for a while, but all these ancient calendars, they started when Enoch was alive. And all those calendars all end in our generation coming up for 2040, 2046, 2061, 2070. It's amazing. But no, the Phoenix phenomenon pre-exists even the appearance of the Anuna. And it was the Anuna that built the Great Pyramid Giza complex. The principal architect would have been Enki, but Enki didn't really reveal exactly what it was for. He couldn't, because if one person ever said anything, then it would have been known to AI instantly. It probably put it out that it was going to be some type of free energy or pump station, or because that's what it's designed as. But we know a lot of machinery was employed in the building of it. We've already seen the evidence of this, but there was machinery on the inside as well. The Grand Gallery had some type of mechanism that used those niches that went up and down. It may have went up and down that Grand Gallery at high velocity. I don't know. But no, the Phoenix phenomenon totally antedates by a long period of time the building of the Great Pyramid. So what happened was, I believe, that the total cessation, a program was uploaded into the simulacrum that was going to stop the Phoenix phenomenon because it would be no longer needed in a far distant future date. It would just no longer be needed. I also believe that there were modifications added to the Phoenix phenomenon, making it of lesser effect, making it more discriminatory in what it destroys. I believe the Phoenix protocol was basically hijacked by a benefactor. And this is why we have such really anomalous, ambiguous data about the Phoenix phenomenon. Sometimes it seems very good, positive, sometimes it's bad. Whatever it is, it's an unknown. However, the Great Pyramid was focused on the 138-year Phoenix holography, and that's not even questionable no more. Anybody who has seen all my charts and verified it themselves with a calculator and look, you will see all these measurements. Everyone, they all have everything to do with multiples of 138, and that is beyond coincidence. Remember, too many coincidences exhibits no coincidence at all. It's the pattern. It's the reason why. So it's it's whatever Inky did, Enoch, he modified 100% the Phoenix protocol, because the two appearances before that were absolutely destructive, terribly destructive. And it seems that over time is diminished, it's gotten less and less destructive, because the collapse of the vapor canopy, what you know of as the Great Flood, the day the sky fell, that was pretty destructive. 552 years later, which is 138 times 4, was the Ogaigian deluge, which was 1687 BC. And this too has been historically and scientifically documented as the day that all Bronze Age civilizations collapsed out of there. That was terribly destructive as well. And we have not yet had another destruction near as bad as that one. Although we've had the Phoenix phenomenon appear every 138 years, very well documented in my material, but it's never been worldwide like that, except one time. One time out of 20 something visits, all of a sudden it was bad. And the Roman Catholic Church has done a fantastic job of covering it up. But you've seen my video on the true reason the Anno Domini calendar was created by the Roman Catholic Church, and how they hid the Phoenix event of 522 AD, which was almost, it was a temporary return of the vapor canopy. But anyway, this picture here, real simple. All throughout the traditions of the ancient world, the holy mountain, Mount Meru, the altar of Agni. In my book, The Lost Scriptures of Giza, I give a whole chapter on nothing but all the traditions that some holy mountain important to the saving of humanity, built by the gods, was at the center of the earth, at the middle of the earth. In the Old Testament, it's called Mount Zion. It was never in Israel or Jerusalem. The Great Pyramid in the center is the center of motion during every pole shift. The Great Pyramid doesn't move. That site only turns. The further away you get from the center, way over here in North America, everything's going down 30 degrees. Way over here in the East, in China and Australia, everything's going up. China takes the place of Siberia. Australia takes the place of China. Over here, where I'm at, Texas is going to take the place of Central America. Canada is going to take the place of the United States. Way down here, more than half of South America is going to get shoved straight into the torrid zone, freezing temperature zones. Whole world, like a disc, spins 30 degrees. Great Pyramid is the center of motion. It is the safest area. Israel, Egypt, Libya, Ethiopia, Greece, the Aegean, that's the safest area in the world in a pole shift. All that. Now, I'm talking about inland. Nowhere is safe in the world during a pole shift near the coasts, because the oceans do become tumultuous. And the reason for this is because when a land in lithospheric displacement, when a landmass moves, bodies of water can't keep up. Therefore, you could be on dry land, 250 miles inland, and you think you're safe because you're 200 feet above sea level. Then all of a sudden, the sea itself just begins to rise. The sea isn't moving. It's the landmass that you're on that's getting pushed into it. So to you, optically, you don't realize you're moving. In the ocean is still, and the landmass is going into it. This is lithospheric displacement. This is what would happen. It takes days, if not weeks, for the water to stabilize and to catch up with the new basins, new land masses, because pole shifts are not is simple as just lithospheric displacement. During lithospheric displacement, we have the phenomenon of upheaval and subsidence. And this is why we have so many archaeological discoveries of cities that are in places they could have never been built, like Tiahuanaco, Pumapunka, Machu Picchu. These cities could have never been built at 12,000 foot elevation, and it had thriving populations that were surviving. It's impossible. But the Andes Mountains were never at that level before. And the reason we know this is because archaeologists have, since the 1890s, have found many ancient docks and quays and fossilized coastlands that are at 11,500 to 12,000 feet elevation in the Andes, meaning all those South American cities of Technolithic and Heliolithic design that we have found around Lake Titicaca and Cuzco, they were elevated because those mountains were pushed up, but they were done rapidly. It didn't take millions of years at all. So Lake Titicaca also has, it's a freshwater lake, but everything that's in it is from the saltwater oceans. And they developed, and they basically adapted to basically what happened was Lake Titicaca was just like an ocean. It was saltwater, but in the upheaval, it trapped that salt water up there at the top. Well, it probably took a few hundred years for desalination. And during that period, all those animals, there's sharks in there. It's 12,000 foot elevation, and there are sharks in Lake Titicaca. So there are, what it was those marine life forms adapted over a period of time, because the salt mineral content of the water that they were used to took a long time for the pH balance and all that to change into fresh water. It took a long time, so they adapted, and many species probably died. But Lake Titicaca has some of the most unique freshwater marine biology, biological creatures in the world because of that. But yeah, the center of motion is the Great Pyramid. It is the area of the greatest safety because it's the less amount of motion. Just like being on a merry-go-round, the closer you are to a merry-go-round, the less movement you feel. You're just turning. The further you go to the edge, the more movement and motion that you're experiencing. All you have to do is translate that simple analogy to a worldwide scale, and you can imagine the destruction.
That makes sense. So I remember you said once the Anuna that were in North America, I think it was at the collapse of the vapor canopy, that they wrote their own simulation. So are we actually in a simulation within a simulation?
Okay, I don't want to mix the two. I'm going to answer them separately. One of them is yes, I believe we're in a simulation within a simulation, but I don't believe it goes ad infinitum. I believe it was done for security reasons, so there wouldn't be cross-pollination, so there wouldn't be a contamination of the actual experiments that were being run. So, but as far as the Anuna coming from North America and doing their own simulations, when I made that reference, I was referring to them as a scientific, very technologically advanced civilization at that time, not what they became later when they had lost their infrastructure and all that. When they were an advanced civilization, they were running their own computer simulations just like we do, just like our government agencies do when they're trying to predict different phenomena and different events. Maybe they were doing it in the same way that this looking glass project that I hear a lot about was doing. I don't know, but I don't. When I say that they were running simulations, I meant more like Star Trek holodeck simulations within the context of their civilization. They were running simulations to figure out how to get out of this one. Yeah, I didn't mean that in that one that they were running whole new simulacrums, because I believe a simulacrum is very unique. I believe that there are many simulacrums, but we don't have the ability to build these. These are constructs of something much greater than us. We have great ability to be co-creators inside the simulacrum because that's what it's designed to. We can interface with the simulacrum and build great things in the personal and the collective. But the actual simulacrum itself, this great neutral field, this holography, there may be tens of thousands of these in existence, and we may be traveling through multiple ones. And I have documented that there's been cross-contamination between simulacrums where things just don't make sense. But as far as the Anuna or humans today building a simulacrum, I don't believe it's possible. These are constructs of the oversoul or the overseers. This isn't something we can do. It's not from within it. Not from within it. On the outside, I believe we can. And you know it's my position that the gods on the outside, the origin of the Anuna, are humans, just 100% humans, just like us. Their avatars might be different to be more conducive to whatever biosphere they're in. But remember my position. My position is that DNA is ancient, it is fantastic, and it is still being studied today. Not by our scientists and not by our biologists. No, they'll never crack DNA. I'm talking about outside the simulacrum. DNA is like holy. It is still being, they're still trying to figure it out. And what we've been told about DNA and RNA and the double helix, triple helix deals, it may be all distraction and misinformation. We don't know. Now, one person listening to my voice has ever looked through a microscope and saw a DNA strand. We don't know. So we take a lot of these things on faith. But I believe what makes up the human avatar is so fantastic that these biospheres are necessary to understand its capabilities. And this is where we're at on the outside of the construct. We're trying to find, it might be some huge transgenics project on the outside. I don't know, but we have a lot of evidence on the inside of this simulacrum, all throughout the things that we have found in archaeology, that there's been many different types of human species in this world. And we also know from traditions and from archaeology that there's been several different biospheres that we've lived in. So when you put all this together, it seems like somebody is experimenting. Somebody is basically taking notes and learning from all these things. I don't believe it's anybody inside the construct. I believe it's those on the outside where we came from.
Yeah, so why do you think that we have avatars outside the simulacrum and that we're not just some kind of etheric energies?
Well, I mean, this is kind of realm of opinion, but if I was to base my opinion off of eschatology, well, the focus of eschatology is that we are imperishable husks. We're imperishable bodies. This is the religionist eschatological perspective. We're living in husks. Our biological bodies don't mean anything because the promise is that we're going to receive divine bodies. We're going to eternal life. So we're going to be given a white robe, and through the mystery cults, the cult mystery schools, and even in the book of Revelation, the white robe is emblematic of a new garment. And this is in the Hermetic literature a lot about our garments of light, or our garment. I believe that our whole experience here isn't even anything to worry about, that we're here for the development of an immortal personality, and all these things that we have discovered about history and all that. Listen, it's very easy to manufacture a universe if you just create enough variables. You could throw in all kinds of mysterious stuff. We build virtual reality universes today where people interact with each other with avatars. This is already within the realm of our present technology. Therefore, it's not a stretch of an imagination for me to assume that I'm living in a VR reality now. It's the only thing that would historically make sense from all the anomalies that we've documented. Now, I can't imagine experiencing a physical body right now with my immortal soul jacked into it via the sensitivity of the central nervous system. I'm jacked into this seemingly physical body. Nothing's physical around us, but the central nervous system makes our spirit believe it is. So it's a beautiful construct. It's hyper advanced. So a lot of people just can't even make the cognitive leap. They just can't imagine that everything around us is actually programming. But this programming is so sophisticated, it makes us believe in the very physicality of all this around us. It's the central nervous system. It's a filter. It makes us perceive these things as such. So I'm cool with the fact that I'm living in a seemingly physical body, in a seemingly physical universe that most of the time is very convincing that it's a physical world. Although it does have its moments where it kind of gives us clues that it's not. So I can't imagine going through this experience and then returning to a pure ethereal spiritual state for which I will never have these experiences again. For what? The development of the immortal soul living in numerous avatars. All these life sims is to develop a personality, to me, to receive a final avatar for which that personality would be able to make great utility of. What I mean is, I am 100% convinced that the white robe scenario of the ancient text, the new garment that's given to us in the future, once we are escaped, remember, he comes to set the captives free. That means we're not free right now. And freedom is a lot more than just our perceived physicality. We're not free in spirit. We're not free in what we can do. We're not free in our ability to travel outside the simulacrum. We are in a contained environment. We are in a world that, according to the construct, was built by an artificial God. Remember, the true God is on the outside. Even in the Christian scriptures, even in the Gnosis, we have an artificial God that is taken over. We have the Demiurge, we have Yaldabaoth, we have Yahweh. Remember, Yahweh comes from a burning bush. He didn't come from heaven. It was a desert demon. This is Yaldabaoth. This is the Demiurge. This is the artificial God over an artificial reality. This is, according to the New Testament Christian records, the God of this world. That's a very heavy statement, because the God of this world is the adversary, not the true oversoul. So enter artificial intelligence X. So I believe that these immortal avatars are already prepared, but not just anyone can inhabit one. You have to earn it. And the opportunity to earn it has come in the fact that you've lived multiple life sims over and over and over and over during the duration of this simulacrum. Now, I've also shown the collapse of the simulacrum. 72 years after the return of the chief cornerstone, who comes to set the captives free. There's a 72-year period where we're basically shown the real way to rule, a real government. Because remember, prophecies are attached to the idea of government. The gold empire, the silver empire, all these different culture, all these different attachments to ancient records, and prophecy is always kingdoms and empires. Remember Nebuchadnezzar, the empire of gold, Babylon, then Persia, Cyrus, Medo-Persia, followed by the Greeks, the Achaeans, Macedonians, the Ptolemies of Egypt. They were all a Greek empire. Then followed by the Romans, which were the legs of iron, which split in two different areas, which they did. Rome did split in two, Eastern Orthodox and Western Rome, Roman Catholic Church. So we have this idea throughout history that we're also here to learn better ways to govern. This is like a test. This is like a screening school, because the avatar that I believe I'm going to inherit is one that's going to be godlike. It's going to be so powerful that the oversoul has to make sure that the divine personality that's going to inherit that avatar is not only worthy, but trustworthy. And that's different, because remember, there's another series of prophecies we have to take into consideration, that we are going to be divine envoys, divine kings and priests. Not talking about a present world, because that hasn't happened yet. It's talking about one we will inherit. Remember, the creation is not an event. It's not a singularity. The creation is ongoing. And I have to believe that, because if I believe the oversoul is eternal, then there is nothing that the oversoul did in that past that it's not doing today. Therefore, the incessant creation of new worlds and cosmoses necessitates a body politic that understands the oversoul, that is very much kin or a part of the oversoul, and can be trusted by the oversoul to oversee those other simulacrums, to oversee those other areas of its creation. That's what this is all about. This isn't the first simulacrum. It's not going to be the last. The creation could have been a very, 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 very long time ago, because we're talking about things from an eternal perspective. There may not have ever been a beginning. A true eternal being would have never had a start. This is finite thinking caused by the central nervous system's filters. We're not able to process that amount of data. But when we're given an avatar that's not like this flesh and blood one, but one that can remember, we're learning how to build and form fields mentally here. That's just spiritual. You do that spiritually, and then use our avatar to follow through to induce the simulacrum to build for us. Imagine once we've mastered this and we receive an avatar that can do far greater things. Imagine what we'll be like. I believe that I'll be sent to simulacrums in the future to teach future civilizations. You don't even know that Enki, Enoch, Loki, whatever you want to call him, is the same figure. Could have been just one of these individuals that was talking about these things in a simulacrum 500,000 years ago. And finally, he received his avatar, his immortal avatar, and was accepted into the family of the Oversoul and was given his own simulacrum. And it happened to be this one. And he came in to set the captives free. This story, it has too many elements from the ancient world that all fit together like a tapestry when you put it all together. So my own personal, from my amount of research, which I have been doing almost my entire, well, all my adult life, but almost my entire life. Because remember, I've told you guys my childhood. I was raised in libraries. This is what my family did. Although it was puritanical Southern Baptist, but I was still learning at a very young age. And then I went through my rebellious phase. I was on the streets for 2 years, and then I became a criminal. And, it's just, you guys know the story. So my learning didn't begin when I went to prison. It began in my childhood. So I just believe from a lifetime of learning that this is basically the closest approximation to the truth that we can get, that fits all the facts of all the different enigmas from the ancient and modern world, that we are in a construct, but that the end has already been provided for in the beginning. However, we've been convinced there's a struggle, so we engage in it. I don't know how many tangents I entertained answering that question, but I hope you got some value.
Great. Yeah, that's great. I've always wondered about that. And how does nature really fit in? Because so many people have a hard time going, this can't be a simulation. Just look at nature, how magnificent nature is. A lot of errants like to commune with nature, and they just can't really fit in that whole thing with nature.
That's kind of hard for me to process, because the absolute beauty of nature is evidence for the simulacrum, not evidence against it. Nature is beautiful, but its background, it could be all entirely programming, because reptiles and amphibians, fish, avians, that could all be programming. Now we have something subtly different with mammals. Mammals, remember, the creation has never stopped. We do not know where our spiritual journeys began. We don't. But it could have begun as a wolf. It could have begun as something not in a human avatar. It could have begun to learn multiple perspectives. Because remember, I've always said that when we finally receive our avatar, the one that we have inherited, that's when we will get. Because remember, nothing is lost in a hologram. Everything we've ever experienced and learned is a part of our informed field, and in a hologram does not lose information. But from your perspective, from your vantage point, when you change positions, you change what you're exposed to. Like a kaleidoscope. If you barely turn the kaleidoscope, everything is still there, but now you're seeing different perspectives of it. It's very different. So when we receive our final avatar, that avatar is able to receive all the memories from every life sim you've ever lived. It began as a moose in the mountains of Colorado. I don't know. I don't know the difference between the souls of animals and the spirits of humans. I'm just a chronologist. I'm just a human just like you are. I don't have the answers to a lot of these all-encompassed ones, and it shouldn't be expected of me either, because these are very profound, deep mysteries that I don't want to sit here and invent answers for. I just want to give you my opinion. And my opinion is there's something very special about mammals. I don't know about marsupials, maybe so, but mammals, marsupials are a type of mammal. They're a proto-mammal. But placentals, like humans are placentals. I believe that there is something very special. There are emotional and spiritual connections between humans and their pets. So I believe that's more than just programming. There's something there. So it begs the question: in the creation, are the only beings in existence that are like humanoid, have spirits? I don't think so. I think there are many animals that do, but not reptiles, not amphibians, not avians, which are descended from lizards. But yeah, it's when it comes to mammals, there is something very, very different. And they may have been put in the simulacrum for a very definitive reason, because we are also judged by how we treat our animals and how we treat our pets. So yeah, it's animals do show that they dream, and they also show I don't know about empathy. They might, but they get sad. They have the whole gamut of imagination. Now we can remove intuition from animals, and just call it instinct. Or maybe they do intuit things. I don't know. These are far beyond the scope of chronology and eschatology and arithmetic. So
Right. And I've seen one of my dogs seems to have empathy. If another dog gets hurt, she goes over and tries to see where the wound is or whatever. So
oh
I think
yeah.
maybe they do have empathy. And that was a question, is whether or not animals could have immortal personalities too. So yeah, I think I agree with that.
Here's a strange coincidence. Come here. My puppy just walked in here. My puppy just walked in here right when we're talking about animals and dogs. What are you doing, girl? What are you doing, girl?
Beautiful. What's her name?
Angel. Angel.
Perfect.
Ah.
Yeah, I bet she has an immortal personality.
Real smart.
So
little cow dog.
Yeah, dogs are the best. I have 4, and I know you have 5. So,
Yeah.
So somebody wanted to know how the lives of children are affected by the manifestation law of correspondence. Are children's lives 100% subjected to the laws of the collective simulation rather than the individual's own manifested simulation? Are children's lives affected by their parents and the main influencers in their lives? And they said very young children aren't able to manifest. So can parents, etc., manifest for them?
Well, I mean, I really don't know. You're asking me. Yeah, I really don't. This isn't something that I would really know about. I do know that it's the whole prepubescent period is very mysterious. So there's all the greatest development in a child is prepubescent. So there seems to be a calcification in the mental processes once puberty is hit, and the basic fundamentals of a human personality are forged at puberty, and they seem to maintain those patterns unless there's significant development beyond that. But I don't know. These are questions that are beyond the scope of Archaix. I can give you my educated guess. I can give you an opinion, but children are magnificent in imaginative capacity, which is entirely spiritual. Remember, empathy, intuition, and imagination are the 3 fundamentals of the human spirit that makes us different from everything else in the world. So these 3 in combination. And imagination seems to be where children are at their greatest. I don't know. It seems like prepubescent, the empathy seems to be lacking. Children haven't developed that yet. Not to the degree that adults have the empathy. I don't know about intuition because kids do not have the frames of reference by which to communicate their suspicions to us. So I don't know. Now, like I said, this is really beyond the scope. I believe children are guarded. I believe the benefactor basically protects them. Now, there are also incidents of this being a very cruel and terrible world. So I don't know. I believe that we have life sims, and many times, like in the scriptures, we have the references that when children die or when people are taken out of the world before their time, according to other people, that it's to keep them from the evil to come. We may have not seen where their future was heading, their reality tunnels, but the oversoul did and removed them, and I believe put them in another avatar. Like I say over and over, I have to believe in reincarnation. I have no choice anymore, because when I find any one thing is true of an individual, I must accept that it could be true for all. So now that I have been exposed to the fact that there are scientists who have interviewed children and found out that they have definitive memories of living in another family, and those facts checked out, then I refuse to believe that reincarnation exists for one individual and not the many. I can't. So it has to be something we're all going through, but by virtue of the central nervous system, which is a filter, we don't have those memories. We're not going to have all of our memories restored from all of our past avatars until we have a single avatar that's capable of maintaining that. I believe the future avatar that we'll get in the future will remember every time we've been a child, every experience from every life sim we've ever had. But right now, our brain capacity would be an overload. We couldn't specific retention is lost because our avatars are very weak, and I just believe the memory wipe is necessary for the maturation and the development of the immortal soul. It needs to experience all these things, because if you truly remembered everybody that you have been in the past as you were living this life right now, you would process information and you would develop totally different than the way you're developing now. So yeah, I believe the memory wipe is necessary, and that involves children. When children are introduced into the world, they retain many of the memories from a former life. And this is why many of the things that come out of their mouth, where they try to communicate or do communicate once they learn how to speak, are so alien to their parents and are often dismissed as just a highly active imagination. And oftentimes when those people are interviewed, it's found out that they're remembering things that are very provable. So yeah, that's about as far as I can go with that. I don't need to be known on YouTube as somebody who's just going to do a bunch of speculation on things I really have no direct knowledge of.
Right, but I'm glad you brought up the part about memory wipes during reincarnation, because that's a big debate whether that's beneficial or not. So I agree with you on that one. Some people are saying that
Go ahead.
Some people say that the vapor canopy is already developing now. Is that a possibility?
Yes, it is a possibility. When you're talking about a substantive atmospheric change, like the vapor canopy, yes, it takes a while. But it would all be within somebody's lifetime easily. I mean, in 1687 BC, it returned for 25 years. It even created a new age of heroes where people were growing to astonishing sizes all over again. Then it collapsed 25 years later. It didn't have the power to sustain. It reappeared again in 522 and lasted about 20 years. But it never fully came back, because the sun was still seen. It was just very, 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 very they could just see the circle of the sun in the sky. They couldn't see any brightness whatsoever in 522 all the way to about 538, 539. Some say 540. So yeah.
What was the catalyst that started those short vapor canopies? Was it a phoenix?
It was Phoenix. It was Phoenix. Every time it was Phoenix. It was Phoenix. Phoenix. Look, Phoenix in other cultures is called Vulcan. If Vulcan is from volcanism, this is what Phoenix does. Phoenix causes massive amounts of, when it appears, massive amounts of volcanoes, and they just basically volcanic ash and atmospheric red dust from Phoenix blankets the upper mesosphere. The mesosphere is a layer of water droplets that catch all this stuff. And when there's too much volcanic outgassing and ashes spewed up into the atmosphere, when there's too much of that from different places of the world, the mesosphere gets packed with that volcanic ash. Then that that wet ash suspended in the mesosphere begins to catch all this dust that rains on our world every year. It rains on our world every single year, but lately, like in 2019, 2020, 2021, there's been a lot of red dust fallout. The media always says it's Sahara sand. It always says it's Australian desert sand. But they're gonna blame it on any desert in that area just to satisfy the public. I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe in meteorology. I don't believe weathermen predict accurate weather. None of that. We have way stations set up all over the world, and it's very easy to say if we know that it's already.
Ah, it froze up. Can y'all hear me? It's frozen. Hello, hello. It's 4:44 here. Oh, we went off. Damn. All right, guys, I guess this is over because Jason froze up. And I'll end it now. And hopefully we can finish it up another day. Thanks if everybody's still here and y'all can hear me.